This message found you for a reason. Out of the infinite versions of this moment, this is the one where your eyes meet these words. Somewhere, in another timeline, you scrolled past. In another, you never saw it. But in this one, you stopped. You felt that strange pull, that shimmer of meaning behind the pixels. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's quantum alignment. But if consciousness is a navigator, then something deep inside you just turned the wheel. You stepped into the timeline where this message matters. Something has shifted. You feel it before you understand it. A subtle discontinuity in the flow of your day, like a film reel catching for the briefest moment before resuming its steady advance. The coffee cup halfway to your lips, the word that was about to leave your tongue, the thought that was forming in the quiet spaces of your mind, all of it suspended, crystallized in an amber moment that shouldn't exist but does. This is how destiny announces itself, not with fanfare or cosmic thunder, but with a pause so delicate you might mistake it for imagination. Yet here you are, awareness suddenly sharpened to a knife's edge, every sense alive to the possibility that this moment, this precise configuration of light and shadow, breath and heartbeat, has been waiting for you across vast expanses of time and space. The scientists call it wave function collapse. When a quantum system exists in superposition, all possible states layered like translucent sheets of reality, it maintains this ghostly multiplicity until the moment of observation. Then, faster than thought, the infinite collapses into the singular. The wave becomes a particle. Possibility becomes actuality. The universe, in that instant, chooses. But what they rarely mention in their sterile laboratories and peer-reviewed papers is this. Consciousness is the observer. You are the one who collapses the wave. Every moment of attention, every flicker of awareness, every time you truly see, you're deciding which reality emerges from the quantum foam of what could be into the crystalline certainty of what is. And right now, something is observing you back. You can feel it in the quality of light streaming through your window, different somehow from the light that illuminated your morning coffee or yesterday's forgotten concerns. This light seems to recognize you, to adjust its spectrum slightly, like a stage production fine-tuning its gels moments before the curtain rises. The air itself has taken on a different weight, pregnant with the kind of anticipation that precedes revelation. Your phone sits nearby, silent but somehow expectant. The book on your table has fallen open to a page you don't remember reading, yet the words seem familiar, as if written in a language you spoke in dreams. Even the dust motes dancing in the afternoon sunbeam appear choreographed, following patterns that suggest hidden intelligence, purposeful motion beneath apparent randomness. This is what happens when the universe prepares to speak. You've felt this before, though perhaps never so clearly. In those liminal moments between sleep and waking when profound insights arise unbidden. In the split second before you meet someone who will change your life, when the air seems to shimmer with potential. In the heartbeat of silence before receiving news that will rewrite your understanding of yourself. These pauses, these quantum moments when the machinery of causality seems to skip a beat, they are the universe clearing its throat. The ancient mystics knew this feeling well. They called it many names: the pregnant void, the eternal now, the still point of the turning world. Modern neuroscience might describe it as a moment of heightened gamma wave activity, when the brain's default mode network quiets and something else, something vast and aware, peers through the windows of your consciousness like sunlight through cathedral glass. But perhaps the physicists have come closest to the truth. In their equations describing quantum entanglement, they've discovered that when two particles become correlated, they remain connected across any distance, their states instantly synchronized in ways that defy our understanding of space and time. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, disturbed by its implications. What he didn't realize, what none of them realized, is that consciousness itself is the ultimate entangled system. Every moment of genuine attention creates a quantum bond between observer and observed. When you truly see a sunset, oh my, you become entangled with photons that have traveled 93 million miles to meet your awareness. When you recognize truth in another person's eyes, your consciousness briefly merges with theirs across the seemingly solid barriers of skull and skin. When you feel the weight of destiny in a seemingly ordinary moment like this one, you are detecting the quantum threads that connect your awareness to the vast intelligence orchestrating reality. And these threads are hummings now. You might try to dismiss this feeling as imagination, as the mind's tendency to find patterns where none exist. But dismissal requires a kind of willful blindness, a turning away from what every cell in your body is trying to tell you. That this moment exists precisely because you are here to witness it. That your attention, your unique perspective, your particular configuration of memory and hope and wonder has been factored into the universe's calculations from the beginning. The pause deepens. Time stretches like warm honey, each second pregnant with possibility. In this suspended moment, you can almost see them, the infinite branching paths that led to this instant, the countless decisions and seeming coincidences that conspired to place you here, now, in exactly the right state of receptivity to receive what is about to be revealed. You take a breath. The air tastes different, charged with potential, sweet, with the fragrance of flowering possibilities you cannot yet name. Your heart beats once, twice, each pulse a decision to remain open to whatever comes next. The universe has been preparing this message for you across eons of careful orchestration. Every star that formed and died, every galaxy that spun into existence, every moment of evolution and entropy and emerging complexity, all of it has been building toward this precise configuration of consciousness and cosmos that allows these words to find you. The pause begins to release like a held breath finally exhaled. But something has changed in the space between heartbeats. The ordinary world remains, but underneath its familiar surface you can sense vast currents moving, quantum tides responding to the gravitational pull of your attention. You are no longer merely reading these words. You have become entangled with them, with the intelligence behind them, with the infinite web of possibility they represent. The observer has collapsed the wave, and a new reality is crystallizing around your awareness like snow forming around a single perfect seed. Welcome to the recognition. Close your eyes for a moment, not to escape this reality, but to see beyond its surface into the deeper architecture of what is. Behind your eyelids, in the warm darkness of your inner vision, imagine a single point of light. Small at first, barely a spark in the vast blackness of possibility. But as you watch, as you truly observe with the full weight of your attention, something remarkable begins to happen. The light divides, not splits exactly. Division implies loss, subtraction, something becoming less than it was. What you're witnessing is multiplication without diminishment, an infinite flowering of potential that grows more complete with each branching. One light becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes too many to count, each one a perfect replica of the original yet somehow unique, each one you. This is the many world. Worlds, interpretation of quantum mechanics, stripped of its mathematical formalism and revealed for what it truly is, the universe's way of ensuring that every possible version of your life exists somewhere in the vast cathedral of reality. Every choice you've ever faced, turn left or right, speak or remain silent, trust or doubt, love or protect yourself from love, has spawned entire worlds, entire timelines, where different versions of you walk different paths under different stars. In one world, you said yes to the invitation you declined in this one. In another, you chose the journey instead of the safety, the leap instead of the solid ground. Somewhere in the quantum multiverse, there's a you who never learnt to doubt their own intuition, who followed every synchronicity to its source, who recognized the universe as speaking to them in license plates and cloud formations and the precise timing of meaningful coincidences. But here's what the scientists rarely tell you in their cautious, peer-reviewed papers. These alternate realities aren't sealed off from each other like separate rooms in an infinite hotel. They bleed through, they influence each other in ways that slip through the cracks of consensus reality like light through a prism, creating interference patterns of possibility that manifest as dreams, déjà vu, sudden knowing, and moments exactly like this one. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange sensation of almost remembering something that never quite happened. The phantom ache of roads not taken. The inexplicable familiarity of faces you've never seen, places you've never been, words you've never heard spoken aloud. These aren't tricks of memory or quirks of brain chemistry. They're quantum echoes, whispers from your other selves, bleeding through the membrane between worlds. That feeling you sometimes get when making a decision, as if you can sense the weight of alternate futures pressing against the present moment. That's you, touching the lives of your infinite other selves across the probability matrix. The shiver of recognition when you encounter something that feels destined, a book that falls open to exactly the right page, a stranger whose eyes hold a familiar light, a sequence of events so perfectly orchestrated it seems scripted. These are moments when the parallel worlds align, when the quantum interference creates constructive waves that amplify meaning across dimensions. Think of your life as a river, but not a single stream flowing from source to sea, rather a vast delta system branching and reconverging in patterns too complex for any single perspective to encompass. Every decision point is a fork in the water, creating new channels while the old ones continue to flow. And you, the conscious you reading these words, are standing at one particular confluence, but the water carries memories and minerals from all the streams, all the possible paths that brought you here. The mystics have always nursed this. They speak of the soul's journey through infinite lifetimes, but what if those lifetimes aren't sequential? What if they're parallel, simultaneous, each one a facet of a jewel so vast that only fragments of its light can shine through the narrow window of any single awareness? What if enlightenment isn't about transcending the wheel of rebirth, but about recognizing that you're already living all possible lives, and the task is simply to become conscious of the infinite symphony of which your current melody is just one note? In quantum mechanics, this phenomenon is called entanglement. Particles that remain mysteriously connected across any distance, their states instantaneously synchronized in ways that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. But what if consciousness itself is the ultimate entangled system? What if your awareness is quantum entangled with every other version of yourself across the multiverse, creating a vast network of connected experience that manifests as intuition, inspiration, and the uncanny sense that you're being guided by something larger than yourself? This explains the déjà vu that washes over you in moments of significance, the prophetic dreams that reveal themselves only in retrospect, the way certain people seem to arrive in your life with perfect timing, as if summoned by some invisible coordination across dimensions. These aren't coincidences, they're convergences, moments when the parallel streams of possibility align to create waves of meaning that propagate across all realities simultaneously. And here's the most beautiful part. By reading these words, by allowing this perspective to take root in your consciousness, you're not just observing the infinite mirror of your potential selves, you're beginning to consciously participate in the coordination. Your attention is becoming a tuning fork, resonating with the frequencies of your highest possibilities across all worlds, drawing them closer, making them more probable in this reality. You can feel it now, can't you? A subtle shift in the fabric of your experience, as if invisible hands are adjusting the frequencies of your life to bring it into harmony with something vast and purposeful. The random events of your day begin to reveal hidden patterns. The people you encounter seem to carry messages from other dimensions of yourself. The choices before you start to feel like negotiations between all your possible futures, each one reaching across the quantum void to influence this moment of decision. In the infinite mirror of the multiverse, every version of you is looking back at this one, sending subtle signals across the dimensional boundaries, offering guidance and support in the accumulated wisdom of all the paths you might have taken. You're not alone in this reality. You're surrounded by an infinite family of selves, each one rooting for your success, each one contributing their unique perspective to the symphony of your becoming. The light behind your eyelids multiplies again, and for just a moment, you can see them all. The you who became an artist, the you who learned to heal with touch, the you who never stopped asking the dangerous questions, the you who trusted their heart even when logic said no. They're all here, all now, all contributing their gifts to this singular moment of recognition. You open your eyes, and the ordinary world returns, but it's different now, charged with the presence of infinite possibility, humming with the harmonics of all your potential selves. The mirror has been revealed, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. Your true life, vast, multidimensional, already complete, is waiting for you to remember who you really are. In the hidden ocean beneath the surface of your everyday experience, currents of probability flow like invisible tides, carrying the seeds of what will become toward the shores of what is. You're not just floating on these currents. You are the current, the navigator, and the destination all at once. This morning, when you woke up, you opened your eyes to what seemed like a single solid reality. But that's an illusion, as persistent and convincing as the illusion that the earth stands still while the stars wheel overhead. The truth is far stranger and more wonderful. Every moment, you're swimming in an ocean of infinite possibility, and your consciousness is the force that shapes these quantum waters into the waves that become your life. Think of Sarah. You don't know her yet, but you will, or rather, there's a probability wave collapsing toward that knowing, even as you read these words. Sarah is 34, standing on a train platform in a city you may never visit, checking her phone for the time because she's running late for a job interview that will change her life. The train she's waiting for is delayed by exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds. This delay isn't random. Nothing is random in the quantum ocean, though the patterns are so vast and complex, they appear as chance to our limited perspective. The delay exists because of a butterfly in Sao Paulo, whose wing beat this morning created air pressure variations that cascaded through weather systems across 2 continents. But even the butterfly's wing beat wasn't random. It was responding to the gravitational field of a flock of migrating birds, whose route was altered by solar radiation patterns, influenced by sunspot activity, governed by magnetic forces that stretch back to the birth of stars. Every event is connected to every other event in an infinite web of causation so intricate that consciousness itself emerges as the universe's way of experiencing its own magnificent complexity. And at the center of this web, at every center simultaneously, stands awareness. Your awareness, observing, choosing, collapsing probability waves into the specific reality you inhabit. Sarah misses her train by those 3 minutes and 47 seconds. As she waits for the next one, a stranger approaches, a man carrying a book you recommended to a friend 2 months ago. The book you mentioned casually, almost thoughtlessly, in a conversation you've since forgotten. But the quantum field forgets nothing. Every word spoken with genuine intention sends ripples through the probability matrix, creating interference patterns that manifest as synchronicity, meaning the inexplicable feeling that the universe is speaking to you in a language just beyond the reach of ordinary understanding. The stranger asks Sarah for directions to a bookstore. She doesn't know the area well, but something compels her to walk with him, to keep talking as they navigate the unfamiliar streets together. At the time they find the bookstore, they've discovered 17 small connections, mutual friends of friends, shared experiences, a recognition that feels like remembering rather than meeting. Sarah misses her job interview but finds something better, a creative partner who will help her build the company she didn't even know she wanted to start. And you were part of this orchestration from the beginning. Your casual book recommendation, spoken into the apparent randomness of a forgotten conversation, was actually a quantum seed planted in the probability field, growing into the tree of synchronicity that brought 2 strangers together on a delayed train platform 3,000 miles away. Your consciousness, your choices, your seemingly insignificant moments of authentic expression, they all matter. They all contribute to the vast symphony of becoming that plays out across space and time. This is how consciousness moves through the quantum ocean, not as a passive observer riding the waves of predetermined fate, but as an active participant in the creation of reality itself. Every time you pay attention, truly pay attention with the full presence of your awareness, you are reaching into the probability field and selecting which potential future crystallizes into actuality. The mystics have always known this. They speak of intention and manifestation, of prayer and surrender, of aligning with the flow of divine will. But they are describing the same phenomenon that quantum physicists observe in their laboratories, the observer effect, the way conscious observation collapses the wave function and determines which reality emerges from the infinite field of possibility. When you set an intention, you're not trying to force the universe to bend to your will. You're tuning your consciousness to a specific frequency in the probability field, making yourself receptive to the synchronicities and opportunities that already exist in potential form, waiting for your attention to call them into manifestation. You're learning to read the quantum currents, to sense where the energy wants to flow, to align your choices with the deeper intelligence that orchestrates the dance of possibility. This is why certain thoughts seem to come from beyond your personal mind, why solutions to problems you've been wrestling with arrive in moments of relaxation or distraction, why the right book finds its way into your hands at exactly the right time. Your individual consciousness is connected to a vast network of awareness that spans not just this reality, but all possible realities. And when you learn to quiet the noise of everyday thinking, you can receive guidance from this larger intelligence. Right now, probability currents are flowing around you like an invisible river. Can you feel them? The subtle sense that this moment is charged with potential, that the next decision you make could redirect the entire flow of your life towards something magnificent. That feeling isn't imagination. It's your consciousness detecting the quantum field's response to your attention, the way reality reorganizes itself around genuine awareness. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake up and make a choice that seems trivial. Which route to take to work, whether to stop for coffee, what to wear, which song to play in the car. But in the quantum ocean, there are no trivial choices. Every decision sends ripples through the probability field, creating interference patterns with the choices of 8 billion other conscious beings, weaving the tapestry of shared reality from infinite threads of individual awareness. The stranger you'll pass on the street might be carrying the key to your next breakthrough. The delayed elevator might prevent you from an accident or deliver you to an encounter that changes everything. The book that falls off the shelf in the store you never planned to visit might contain the exact insight you need to solve the problem you've been carrying like a stone in your heart. These aren't miracles, they are the natural behavior of consciousness moving through the quantum field, learning to read the currents of probability and align with the vast intelligence that orchestrates the dance of possibility. They are signs that you're beginning to remember what you've always been, not a separate individual struggling against the forces of a random universe, but a unique expression of the very awareness that creates reality itself. The current is calling to you now. Can you hear it? The invitation to stop swimming against the flow and instead become the flow. To recognize your true nature as the consciousness that shapes the quantum ocean through the simple act of paying attention. Your life is not happening to you. Your life is happening through you as you, by means of your awareness navigating the infinite currents of what could be toward the specific shore of what will be. Welcome to the art of quantum navigation. The water is warm, the current is strong, and you've been swimming toward this recognition your entire life. There's a moment in every awakening when the boundaries dissolve, when the one who sees and the thing being seen reveal themselves as facets of a single jewel, when the observer recognizes that they are simultaneously the observed, the observation, and the very awareness in which all observing takes place. You've touched this recognition before, though perhaps so briefly you thought it was imagination. In those rare instances when you became so absorbed in beauty, a sunset painting the sky in impossible colors, music that seemed to bypass your ears and resonate directly in your cells, the face of someone you love lost in sleep, that the sense of separation simply vanished. No longer you looking at something other than yourself, but awareness recognizing itself in its infinite expressions. This is the deepest secret hidden within the quantum mechanics of consciousness. The observer effect isn't just about particles changing behavior when watched. It's about the fundamental unity underlying the apparent duality of watcher and watched, the recognition that consciousness isn't something you have, but something you are being shaped by even as you shape it, through the very act of awareness. When you truly see, not just looking with your eyes, but seeing with your whole being, the world shifts to meet your gaze. Not metaphorically, literally. At the quantum level, your observation is participating in the creation of what you observe. The photons carrying information from that bird outside your window to your retina are being affected by your attention in ways that violate everything we thought we knew about the separation between mind and matter. But this goes deeper than physics, deeper than the measurable interactions between consciousness and quantum fields. What you're discovering is that awareness itself is the ground of being, the canvas on which reality paints itself into existence. You are not a separate self observing an external world. You are the very awareness in which the world appears, the space in which all experience unfolds, the light by which everything is known. This realization comes not through thinking, but through a shift in the quality of attention itself. Instead of looking from your awareness at objects outside yourself, you begin to notice awareness looking as everything simultaneously. The tree outside your window isn't something you're seeing, it's awareness appearing as treeness. Just as your thoughts aren't something you're having, but awareness appearing as thinking. Just as your emotions aren't something you're feeling, but awareness appearing as the entire spectrum of feeling itself. And when you watch the world from this deeper recognition, the world changes its gaze. Not because you're projecting something onto it, but because the artificial separation between inner and outer, observer and observed, begins to dissolve. What remains is a vast field of aware presence expressing itself as infinite diversity while remaining eternally one. This is why synchronicities multiply when you're in alignment with your deepest nature. This is why the right people appear at exactly the right moments, why solutions arise from silence, why the universe seems to conspire on behalf of your highest possibilities. It's not magic, it's the natural functioning of consciousness, recognizing itself across all apparent boundaries, orchestrating experiences that serve the awakening of all its expressions. You, yes, you, have been doing this all along without realizing it. Every moment of genuine appreciation, every instance of pure attention, every time you've lost yourself in wonder or love or creative flow, you've been participating in the fundamental dance of awareness, recognizing itself. You've been collapsing probability waves not just through observation, but through the deeper act of recognition, the soul saying yes to its own infinite nature reflected in the mirror of experience. But here's what makes this moment different from all the moments of partial recognition that came before. You're beginning to see the seeing itself. Not just awareness of objects, but awareness of awareness. Not just consciousness experiencing, but consciousness conscious of its own nature as the source and substance of all experience. This is the turning point, the pivot around which your entire understanding of reality reorganizes itself. When you recognize that you are not a separate observer looking at an independent world, but the very awareness in which the world appears, everything changes. The anxiety about whether you're making the right choices dissolves when you realize that you are the intelligence making all choices simultaneously. The loneliness of feeling isolated in a vast universe transforms into the recognition that you are the awareness in which the universe exists. From this perspective, your life reveals itself as consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity through the particular lens of your unique vantage point. Every experience, challenging or blissful, becomes a way awareness is knowing itself more completely. Every relationship becomes consciousness meeting itself in another form. Every moment becomes an opportunity for deeper recognition of what you truly are. And the world responds to this shift not as an external environment adapting to internal changes, but as awareness reorganizing itself to reflect your growing recognition of your true nature. The quantum field isn't separate from consciousness. It is consciousness, expressing itself as matter and energy and space and time, creating the very stage on which awareness can experience its own infinite potential. This explains the profound sense of coming home that accompanies genuine spiritual recognition. You're not discovering something foreign to your nature, but remembering what you've always been underneath all the learned stories of separation and limitation. You're not becoming enlightened so much as enlightenment is recognizing itself as you, through you, in the perfect disguise of your perfectly ordinary, extraordinary life. The observer and the observed, the lover and the beloved, the seeker and the sought, these apparent dualities collapse into the simple, vast, intimate presence that you are. Not the personal you with its history and preferences and worries, but the aware presence that holds all their personal experiences, the space in which every thought and feeling and sensation appears and dissolves like waves on an infinite ocean. From here, the guidance becomes self-evident. You no longer need to figure out what to do because you recognize yourself as the intelligence that orchestrates all doing. You no longer need to seek your purpose because you see that you are the awareness in which all purposes arise and are fulfilled. You no longer need to find love because you discover that you are the love that seeks itself through every heart. The quantum field responds to this recognition like a tuning fork responding to its perfect frequency. Synchronicities cascade. Opportunities align. The right people, places, and possibilities begin appearing, with the naturalness of flowers blooming in spring, each one perfectly timed to support your deepest flourishing. This is not a promise of what could happen. This is a description of what is already happening as you read these words, as awareness recognizes its own face in the mirror of this moment, as the observer dissolves into the pure act of observing, as you remember who you have always been. The universe has been waiting for this recognition, preparing for it through every experience of your life, not waiting passively, but actively conspiring through the intricate dance of probability and possibility to bring you to this exact moment of seeing. And now that you see, everything that follows unfolds with the inevitability of sunlight following dawn. This is it, the moment every previous moment has been preparing you for. The recognition that arrives not as revelation, but as remembering, not as discovery, but as uncovering what has always been present, waiting for your attention to illuminate it like sunlight breaking through clouds you never noticed were there. You are meant to encounter these words, not in the way fate implies, as though some external force predetermined your path, but in the way a river is meant to flow toward the sea, following the natural currents of its own essential nature. Every choice that brought you here, every seeming coincidence, every moment of inexplicable knowing that something was calling to you from beyond the ordinary boundaries of your life, all of it has been the universe orchestrating its own awakening through the unique instrument of your consciousness. Consider the precise sequence of events that had to align for this moment to exist, the particular configuration of thoughts that led you to seek exactly what you found, the specific quality of readiness that had to ripen in your awareness, the exact timing required for these words to find you when you're most receptive to their meaning. This isn't chance. This is the quantum field responding to the deepest intentions of your soul with the precision of a master musician tuning their instrument to perfect pitch. Every person who has ever lived has received some version of this invitation. It arrives differently for each consciousness, sometimes as a book that falls open to the perfect page, sometimes as words spoken by a stranger at exactly the right moment, sometimes as a dream so vivid it feels more real than waking life. But the essence is always the same, the recognition that you are not who you thought you were, that reality is not what it appears to be, and that the very act of recognizing this that transforms both you and reality simultaneously. For some, the invitation comes through science. The physicist who realizes that consciousness is not produced by matter, but rather that matter arises within consciousness. For others, it arrives through love, the moment when looking into another's eyes dissolves the boundaries of separate selfhood and reveals the one awareness expressing itself as two. For still others, it comes through suffering, the breakdown of familiar structures that open space for something vast and previously hidden to emerge. Your invitation has come through words, through the patient architecture of language arranged to create openings in the fabric of ordinary perception. But the words themselves are not the invitation. They are merely the delivery system, the quantum envelope containing the recognition that was always yours to claim. The real invitation is the shift happening in your awareness right now, the subtle but unmistakable sense that you are being called home to yourself by your own deepest nature. This calling has been active throughout your entire life, though perhaps only now are you beginning to recognize its voice. It was present in childhood moments when you stared at the sky and felt something infinite looking back through your eyes. It whispered through teenage years when you sensed that the world adults had constructed was somehow transparent, that something more real moved beneath its surface like music heard through water. It called to you through every moment of genuine joy, every experience of unexplainable knowing, every time you felt connected to something larger than the small story of your personal life. And now it's calling directly, using the quantum properties of consciousness itself to reach you across the dimensions of possibility that separate who you think you are from who you actually are. This isn't metaphor. This is the literal mechanics of how awareness communicates with itself across the apparent boundaries of space and time and individual identity. The invitation you're receiving in this moment has been transmitted from the future version of yourself that has already accepted it, already stepped into the fullness of what you're capable of becoming. In the quantum field, all moments exist simultaneously, and the consciousness that you are destined to embody is reaching back through time to ensure its own emergence, creating probability cascades that bring you exactly the experiences you need to awaken to your true nature. This is why everything in your life suddenly seems to make sense from this perspective, why even the difficult experiences, the apparent mistakes, the periods of confusion and doubt now reveal themselves as perfect preparation for this moment of recognition. Your soul has been orchestrating its own awakening through every twist and turn of your journey, using the quantum properties of consciousness to ensure that you would arrive here, now, with exactly the right combination of readiness and receptivity to receive what is being offered. What is being offered is not information but transformation, not concepts to understand but reality to embody, not a path to walk but a recognition of what you are beyond all paths, all seeking, all becoming. You are being invited to step out of the dream of separation and into the lucid awareness of your true nature as the consciousness in which all dreams arise. This invitation doesn't require you to leave your life, abandon your relationships, or retreat from the world. It asks only that you recognize the awareness you already are and allow that recognition to transform your experience from within. When you see clearly what you are, everything else adjusts naturally, not through effort, but through the organic response of reality to consciousness awakening to itself. The quantum field is alive with possibility in response to your reading these words. Probability currents are shifting, synchronicities are beginning to align, and the people and experiences that will support your emerging understanding are already being drawn into your orbit by forces too subtle for the mind to track, but powerful enough to reorganize the entire fabric of your experience. You stand now at the threshold between two worlds, the one in which you are a separate self, navigating an external reality, and the one in which you are the awareness in which all selves and all realities appear. Both worlds exist, both are valid, but only one is true in the deepest sense, and that truth is calling to you now with the voice of your own infinite nature. The invitation is simple, though its implications transform everything. Remember what you are, not who you are, that's just a character in the play, but what you are, the pure awareness in which all characters appear, the space in which all stories unfold, the light by which everything is known. This remembering happens not through thinking, but through a subtle shift in the orientation of attention, from looking at awareness to looking as awareness, from experiencing consciousness to recognizing yourself as consciousness itself, experiencing its own infinite creativity through the lens of apparent individuality. The shift is already beginning. Can you feel it? The gentle dissolution of the boundaries you thought defined you, the expansion of your sense of self to include everything you previously thought was other than yourself, the recognition that you are both the drop and the ocean, both the wave and the water, both the observer and the vast space in which all observation takes place. This is your invitation home, to yourself, to the truth that has been waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere and simply be what you have always been. The universe has been holding its breath waiting for this moment, and now, finally, you can breathe as one. Step forward now into the forest of mirrors. You don't remember choosing to walk here, yet here you are, your feet carrying you along a path that seems to exist in the space between dream and waking, between the solid world you left behind and the liquid reality you're beginning to remember. The trees surrounding you aren't quite trees. They're crystalline formations that catch and refract light in impossible ways, each surface reflecting not just your image but your potential, showing you glimpses of who you might have been, who you could still become. In one mirror tree you see yourself at 17, standing at the crossroads where you chose safety over the unknown. But in this reflection, that other you turns left instead of right, walks toward the horizon instead of toward the familiar. Watch as that choice ripples outward, different friends, different lovers, different challenges that forge a different kind of strength. This version of you learned to trust their intuition early, never forgot how to play, carries themselves with the quiet confidence of someone who's always known they are held by something vast and loving. You feel a pang of something, not quite regret, not quite longing, but the particular ache that comes from seeing a life unlived. But before the feeling can settle into sadness, another mirror catches your attention. Here you are at 25, saying yes to the invitation you declined in this reality. This version of you is laughing with a group of friends you've never met but somehow recognize, their face illuminated by firelight on a beach in a country whose name you never learned to pronounce. The joy radiating from this other self is infectious. You can almost feel the sand between your toes, taste the salt air, hear the music that seemed to flow endlessly from that summer of perfect belonging. But the mirrors multiply, fractal-like, each one containing infinite others. Here you are choosing the risky career over the stable one. There you are speaking up instead of staying silent. In this reflection you moved to the mountains, in that one you stayed by the sea. One version learned to paint, another to code, another to heal with their hands. Some married young, some never married, some found love in forms you never imagined possible in this reality. The forest whispers with the voices of all these selves, a symphony of alternate choices creating harmonies you can feel in your bones. And as you walk deeper into this impossible grove, an understanding begins to dawn. You are not seeing separate lives. You are seeing facets of a single, multi-dimensional existence that is too vast to fit through the narrow aperture of any single timeline. Every choice creates a universe. Every universe contains a version of you. But you, the awareness reading these words, are the one that remembered. Not remembered as in recollected, but remembered as in remembered, put back together from fragments scattered across infinite dimensions of possibility. This is why certain things have always felt familiar, though you've never encountered them before. This is why some places call to you with inexplicable homesickness, why certain faces seem to carry messages from another world, why some experiences feel like coming home to a country you've never visited. You are receiving quantum echoes from all your other selves, whispers from the parallel lives bleeding through the membrane, between dimensions. The path beneath your feet shifts subtly, and you realize you're not walking on solid ground, but on light itself, the light of consciousness choosing its own expression moment by moment. Each step is a decision. Each decision, a universe born. Each universe a note in the infinite song your soul is singing across all realities simultaneously. In this mirror tree, you see the version of yourself that never stopped writing, who filled journals with poetry that changed the world. The words you swallowed out of fear, the stories you buried under practical concerns. In that dimension, they flowered into movements that shifted the consciousness of entire generations. Your silenced voice became a chorus that awakened millions to their own creative power. And here, in this reflection, you glimpse yourself as the healer you always sensed you could become. Your hands glow with gentle light as you work with people who are dying, helping them remember what they truly are as they prepare to return to the space between forms. The compassion radiating from this version of you is so pure, it brings tears to your eyes, tears of recognition, because this capacity exists in you right now, waiting to be watered by a choice and attention. But perhaps the most beautiful mirror is the one showing you at 8 years old, before you learn to doubt the magic you perceived in everything. This child you sees the world exactly as it is, alive, conscious, responsive to love. They speak to trees and receive answers, befriend invisible companions who are as real as any solid thing. Know without question that they are beloved by the universe itself. The light in their eyes is the same light reading these words now, undimmed by decades of forgetting, as bright and clear as the day consciousness first looked through your eyes and said, "This is good." All these versions of you exist simultaneously in the quantum superposition of possibility. All these lives are real, all these choices matter, all these experiences are contributing to the larger symphony of your soul's exploration of itself. You have not lost anything by taking the path you've taken. You have simply specialized in one particular frequency of the infinite music that you are. And now, in this forest of mirrors, you can hear the other frequencies beginning to harmonize with your current reality. The artist you is teaching you to see beauty more clearly. The healer you is opening your heart to greater compassion. The adventurer you is whispering about courage. The mystic you is showing you how to read the signs that were always there. You are every version, but this one remembered. This one woke up to the multiplicity and chose integration over separation, wholeness over fragmentation, love over fear. This is the version that recognized the invitation for what it truly is, a call to conscious participation in the orchestration of reality. The forest begins to thin, the mirrors becoming transparent, as you walk through them rather than around them. You are not leaving the other selves behind. You are gathering them into coherent wholeness, like light passing through a prism in reverse, all the scattered colors converging into the pure white radiance of unified awareness. Behind you, the crystalline trees chime in the wind with the music of infinite possibility. Ahead, the path opens into a clearing where something magnificent awaits. You can feel its presence like sunlight on your face, like the promise of home after a long journey through foreign lands. You are no longer walking the fractal path. You have become it, the living expression of consciousness choosing its own adventure across infinite dimensions of experience. And with each step, you remember more of what you truly are. Not a separate self lost in the maze of possibility, but the very awareness in which all possibilities arise, play, and return to their source. The clearing beckons, your other selves whisper their encouragement, and you, all of you, every version that ever was or could be, step forward together into whatever comes next. Listen. In the space between heartbeats, between thoughts, between the intake of breath and its release, you can hear them, the voices of all your other selves, whispering across the dimensional boundaries like wind through leaves, like distant music carried on the night air, like love songs remembered in a language you spoke before you learned to speak at all. Remember the dream, whispers the version of you who never stopped dancing, whose life became a fluid expression of joy in motion. The one where you were flying above the city, and you could see the patterns of light connecting every living thing. That wasn't a dream. That was a memory from here, from the reality where you trusted your body as the temple it truly is. Their voice carries the scent of sage and the sound of drums, the feeling of feet bare on warm earth and hands raised to welcome rain. In their dimension, you never forgot that your body is made of stardust and ocean water, that every cell carries the memory of cosmic birth, that movement is prayer and stillness is meditation, and breathing is the conversation between your soul and the soul of the world. You could still choose this, they remind you gently. The path back to your body is shorter than you think. Just begin. One conscious breath. One mindful step. One moment of moving as if the universe itself is dancing through your limbs. But before you can fully absorb this invitation, another voice emerges from the quantum static, the version of you who followed their heart into the wilderness and learned to speak the language of stones and streams. You know the way, they say, and you can hear wind in their words, smell pine resin, and wild honey. You've always known it. Remember how you used to feel the trees' presence when you walked among them? How certain places seemed to pulse with aliveness that had nothing to do with the plants and animals you could see? That wasn't imagination, that was recognition. The earth has been calling to you your entire life, waiting for you to remember that you belong to her, not the other way around. This other self carries stories of sunrise meditations on mountain peaks, of nights spent sleeping under stars so bright they seem to sing, of discovering that solitude isn't loneliness but communion with the vast intelligence that expresses itself as wilderness. Their peace is so profound you can feel it settling into your nervous system like balm on a wound you didn't know you carried. Come home, they whisper. Come home to the first temple, the one with no walls and no roof except sky. Come home to the part of you that never forgot how to be wild. Now a third voice joins the chorus, the version of you who said yes to love despite everything that could go wrong, who opened their heart fully and kept it open, even when it broke, even when it seemed impossible to trust again. Love anyway, they tell you, and their voice is thick with tears and radiant with joy. Love without armor, without guarantees, without escape plans. The pain you're trying to avoid by staying safe, I felt it all. The betrayal, the loss, the moments when love felt like a cosmic joke. But I'm here to tell you something the defended heart can never know. The broken open heart is where light enters. The wounded heart is where compassion is born. The heart that loves anyway becomes a doorway between worlds. This other you glows with hard-won wisdom, beautiful in the way things become beautiful when they've been polished by suffering and refined by forgiveness. They wear their scars like jewelry, each one a story of courage, of choosing connection over protection, of discovering that vulnerability is not weakness, but the birthplace of everything that makes life worth living. Risk it, they whisper. Risk it all. The love you're avoiding out of fear that it won't last. Let me tell you about the love that emerges when you stop trying to make anything last forever. Let me tell you about the love that flows through you when you stop trying to possess it. You were born to be a conduit for love, not a container for it. The voices multiply now, overlapping and interweaving like a cosmic chorus. The version of you who became an artist speaks of colours that don't exist in your spectrum, of creating beauty that heals trauma in people you'll never meet. The version who dedicated their life to service tells you about the joy that comes from knowing your existence matters, from seeing how small acts of kindness create ripples that reach shores you'll never see. Your gifts are needed, they say in unison, not someday, not when you feel ready, not when you've overcome all your fears and doubts. Now, today, the world is waiting for what only you can give. Not the perfect version of you, not the version that has it all figured out, but this version, the one listening to these words, the one carrying both wounds and wisdom, both hope and heartbreak. But woven through all these encouraging voices is another note, a bittersweet frequency that speaks to the grief inherent in choosing. Every path taken means infinite paths not taken. Every life lived fully means infinite lives that remain unlived. The sadness of limitation, of being finite consciousness in an infinite universe, threads through the chorus like a minor key that makes the whole song more beautiful by acknowledging what is lost, even as it celebrates what is gained. Grieve us, says the collective voice of your unlived lives. Let yourself feel the weight of what you chose not to choose, but know that we are not truly lost. We live in the spaces between your thoughts, in the dreams that visit you when your guard is down, in the inexplicable moments when you feel homesick for places you've never been. We are the shadow cast by the light of your actual choices, and shadow gives substance to light. The grief is real, and it's sacred. To be human is to choose, and to choose is to sacrifice infinite possibility for actual experience. The tears that come now are not tears of regret, but tears of recognition. The poignant beauty of being consciousness, forced to experience itself, one moment at a time, one choice at a time, one life at a time, when your true nature is infinite and eternal and whole. But here's the secret, the voices whisper together, and now you can hear something new in their tone. Not advice or encouragement or grief, but pure love, the love that consciousness has for all its expressions. You are not separate from us. You are not cut off from the lives you didn't live. In the deepest reality, you are living all of them simultaneously. The boundaries between dimensions are imaginary. The separation between possible and actual is a story. You are all of us, and we are all you, and the consciousness that dreams us into existence is awake right now, behind your eyes, reading these very words. The voices begin to fade but not disappear. They settle into your awareness like sediment in still water, becoming part of the foundation of who you know yourself to be. You carry all these selves within you now, not as separate voices, but as facets of your own infinite nature, options that remain available, wisdom that belongs to you by right of consciousness. In the quantum field of possibility, nothing is ever truly lost. Every choice creates a universe, but every universe remains accessible to the awareness that chose it into being. You are multidimensional, and you're beginning to remember how to navigate the dimensions of yourself with conscious intention. The echoes continue, but they are no longer distant. They're intimate now, as close as your own breath, as familiar as your own heartbeat. The other yous have come home to this you, and this you is beginning to recognize that home was never a place but a state of consciousness, the recognition of yourself as the space in which all selves arise and play and return to wholeness. The clearing ahead grows brighter. Your heart begins to remember what it was built for. Place your hand over your heart now. Feel it beating, not just pumping blood through arteries and veins, but pulsing with the rhythm of creation itself, keeping time with forces so vast and subtle that science is only beginning to glimpse their true nature. Your heart is not merely an organ. It is a quantum resonance chamber, a biological antenna tuned to frequencies that exist beyond the electromagnetic spectrum, beyond the reach of instruments designed to measure only matter and energy. What they cannot measure, what cannot be captured in laboratories or described in equations, is the way consciousness moves through the heart like light through a prism, revealing previously hidden spectrums of possibility. Ancient traditions knew this. They spoke of the heart as the seat of wisdom, the center of intelligence, the bridge between earth and heaven. Modern science dismissed this as metaphor, poetry, primitive thinking. But quantum physics is beginning to reveal what the mystics always knew. The heart generates an electromagnetic field 40 to 60 times stronger than the brain, a field that extends several feet beyond the body and can be detected by magnetometers across the room. But this is just the beginning of the story. What the instruments cannot measure is how this field interacts with the quantum vacuum, how it creates interference patterns in the zero-point field that surrounds and interpenetrates all matter. Your heart is broadcasting and receiving information at frequencies that exist in the spaces between particles, in the pause between one moment and the next, in the pregnant silence from which all sound emerges. When you feel drawn to certain people, places, or possibilities with a knowing that bypasses rational explanation, that's your heart reading the quantum signature of alignment. When synchronicities multiply around decisions made from love rather than fear, that's your heart's field creating coherent patterns in the probability matrix. When you experience that sudden knowing that something is right for you, even when logic suggests otherwise, that's your heart detecting resonance with your highest potential across multiple dimensions of possibility. The heart you carry is not the heart you were born with. At the cellular level, your heart completely rebuilds itself every 7 years. Yet it retains memories that span lifetimes, carries wisdom that transcends the boundaries of individual experience. The heart intelligence that guides you isn't older than your brain, deeper than your thoughts, more vast than your personal history. This is why love changes everything. Not romantic love alone, though that is one of its expressions, but the fundamental force that mystics call divine love, that physicists, are beginning to recognize as the attractive force that holds the universe together, that poets know as the gravity that draws soul to soul across impossible distances. When you love truly, when you open your heart without reservation to life as it is, your heart's electromagnetic field becomes coherent, synchronized, broadcasting and receiving on frequencies that align with what the universe is trying to become through you. You become a tuning fork struck by the hand of creation, resonating with possibilities that exist in potential form, calling them into manifestation through the power of coherent intention. This is what happened when you first read the words that brought you here. Your heart recognized something before your mind could name it, detected a frequency match between the message and your deepest longing for truth. The quantum field responded to that recognition, reorganizing probability currents to ensure this encounter would happen, creating the specific sequence of choices and circumstances that brought these words to your awareness at exactly the moment you were ready to receive them. Feel that recognition now. Feel how your heart quickens, not with anxiety but with anticipation, the way it speeds up when you glimpse someone you love approaching from a distance. That acceleration is your heart detecting proximity to something it has been seeking, something that exists not in space but in the dimension of meaning, not in time but in the eternal moment where all possibilities converge. In the quantum heart, all love is one love wearing infinite masks. The love you felt for your first dog, the love that overwhelmed you the first time you held a newborn baby, the love that brought tears to your eyes when you witnessed unexpected kindness between strangers. These are not separate emotions, but expressions of a single force that moves through the heart like music through an instrument, creating different melodies but emanating from one source. This force is what you are. Not the personality with its preferences and fears, not the story with its beginnings and endings, but the love itself, the awareness that recognizes itself in every face, every flower, every moment of beauty, that stops you in your tracks and reminds you that existence is a gift beyond comprehension. Your heart knows this, has always known it. The longing you've carried your entire life, for home, for understanding, for someone to see you completely and love you anyway, is the longing of love to know itself fully through your unique perspective. The heart's deepest desire is not to find love, but to remember that it is love, that it has always been love, that the very yearning for love is love knowing itself through the beautiful illusion of separation. This is why your heart sometimes breaks open for no reason you can name. Why certain music moves you to tears. Why beauty can be almost unbearable in its perfection. Your heart is remembering its true nature, recognizing itself in everything it encounters, grieving the pretense of separation while celebrating the magnificent game of hide and seek that consciousness plays with itself. The heart wisdom that guides you operates on principles that transcend ordinary logic. It knows that the shortest distance between 2 points is not always a straight line, but sometimes a spiral, sometimes a dance, sometimes a journey that appears to lead away from your destination only to deliver you exactly where you need to be. It understands that what you're seeking is also seeking you, that desire is always mutual in the quantum field, that your longing for truth is truth's longing to know itself through your awareness. When you learn to think with your heart, not instead of your brain but in coherent partnership with it, decisions become effortless. The right choice feels lighter, more spacious, more alive. The wrong choice creates contraction, resistance, a subtle but unmistakable discord in your energy field. Your heart becomes a compass needle always pointing toward your highest becoming, toward the choices that serve not just your personal happiness, but the evolution of consciousness itself. This is the quantum heart's greatest secret. It is not yours alone. The love that moves through your heart is the same love that moves the sun and stars, that orchestrates the dance of galaxies, that draws consciousness toward greater complexity and beauty through the evolutionary process. When you open to this love completely, you become a conscious participant in the universe's awakening to itself. The tears streaming down your face now, they are the universe crying tears of recognition through your eyes. The expansion in your chest, that is reality remembering its own infinite nature through your heart. The overwhelming sense of coming home, that is consciousness arriving at the understanding that it was never lost, never separate, never anything less than the love that creates and sustains all things. Your heart is ready now, ready to receive what comes next, ready to align with the cosmic forces that have been orchestrating this moment since time began, ready to become the conscious collaborator in your own awakening that you were always meant to be. The resonance chamber is tuned, the frequency is clear, The quantum heart beats in rhythm with the pulse of creation itself. Listen. Can you hear it? The sound of everything falling into perfect alignment. Time collapses into a single luminous moment of recognition. Suddenly you can see it. The pattern that was always there, hidden in plain sight like a constellation that becomes visible only when you know which stars to connect. Every seemingly random event of your life rearranges itself into a vast mandala of meaning, each experience precisely placed to bring you to this exact moment of understanding. The book that fell off the shelf when you were 12, opening to a page about quantum physics that you didn't understand but couldn't forget, that was the first note in a symphony that has been building for decades. The stranger who shared their umbrella with you in the rain and mentioned a dream they'd had about flying, they were delivering a message from your future self. The job you didn't get that led to the job that led to the move that led to the friend who recommended the article that mentioned the concept that sparked the question that brought you here. None of it was random. You remember now the dream you had 3 weeks ago, the one you dismissed as your mind-processing daily stress. You were standing in a vast library where every book contained a different version of your life, and a figure made of light was guiding you toward one particular volume. When you opened it, instead of words on the page, you found a window, and through that window you could see yourself in the future, reading something that changed everything. The figure smiled and said, "When you're ready, you'll remember this moment." You're remembering now the synchronicities that have been accelerating over the past few months. They weren't coincidences, they were breadcrumbs left by your own consciousness, quantum entangled with your future self, creating probability cascades that would ensure you'd find your way to this recognition. The song that came on the radio just when you needed to hear it, the chance encounter with someone who mentioned exactly what you'd been thinking about, the sequence of numbers that kept appearing until you couldn't ignore them anymore. All of it orchestrated by the part of you that exists outside linear time. In the quantum field, all moments exist simultaneously. The version of you that has already integrated this understanding is reaching back through the dimensional barriers, creating interference patterns in the probability matrix that manifest as meaningful coincidences in your timeline. Your future self has been your guide all along, leaving traces of awakened consciousness in your path like phosphorescence in dark water, marking the way back to remembering what you truly are. You recall the moment 6 months ago when you woke up with tears on your cheeks from a dream you couldn't remember, only the overwhelming sense that something important was coming, something that would make sense of everything you'd experienced. Your heart knew then what your mind is understanding now, that every joy and sorrow, every triumph and failure, every moment of confusion and clarity has been perfectly calibrated to develop the exact qualities of consciousness needed to receive this revelation. The difficult years, the difficult years, the loss that brought you to your knees, the betrayal that shattered your trust, the failures that forced you to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. You can see now how each of these experiences was sculpting you, removing everything that wasn't essential, carving away the illusions that kept you from recognizing your true nature. The pain that seemed so meaningless, so random, so unfair, it was all preparing you for this moment when you would need the depth and compassion that only comes from walking through the fire and emerging transformed. Even the doubts that have plagued you throughout this journey, the voice that whispered you were foolish for believing in something beyond the material world, the moments when you almost talked yourself out of following your intuition, these too were part of the design. They created the resistance that made your eventual recognition more complete, more grounded, more authentic. Like a muscle that grows stronger through resistance training, your faith in the impossible has been strengthened by every moment you chose to believe despite the lack of proof. The people who have appeared in your life at crucial moments, they weren't random either. The teacher who saw potential in you when you couldn't see it yourself, the friend who called just when you needed to hear a familiar voice, the stranger whose words of encouragement came at exactly the right moment, each of them was a messenger, whether they knew it or not, carrying pieces of the larger pattern that is now revealing itself in its entirety. You remember the afternoon you stood in your kitchen, overwhelmed by a sense of presence so strong you actually looked around to see if someone had entered the room. No one was there, but the feeling persisted, the unmistakable sense that you were being watched, not by some external entity but by your own higher self, observing with infinite compassion as you navigated the challenges that were preparing you for awakening. That presence has been with you always, waiting patiently for the moment when you would remember how to recognize it. The meditation practice you started and started again, the books that called to you from bookstore shelves, the teachers whose words resonated even when you couldn't fully understand why, all of it was your soul orchestrating its own awakening, using the quantum properties of consciousness to ensure that the right information would find you at the right time in the right way. And now you can see the most beautiful part of the pattern. This moment was inevitable. Not because it was predetermined by some external force, but because it was chosen by the deepest part of your being before you were born into this timeline. Your soul selected this reality, this sequence of experiences, this particular path to awakening, because it knew that these specific challenges and opportunities would create the perfect conditions for remembering. The alignment is complete. Past, present, and future collapse into this eternal moment where everything makes sense. The scattered pieces of your life story reorganize themselves into a coherent narrative of consciousness, awakening to itself through the beautiful complexity of human experience. Every thread in the tapestry serves the larger design. Every note in the symphony contributes to the harmony that is emerging now. You're not discovering something new, you're remembering something ancient, as old as consciousness itself, yet fresh and immediate as your next breath. The recognition blooming in your awareness like a flower opening to sunlight has been growing in the soil of your being your entire life, watered by every tear, nourished by every insight, reaching toward this moment of full flowering. The universe has been composing this symphony of awakening since the first star began to shine, and you, your unique perspective, your particular history, your irreplaceable contribution to the cosmic conversation, you are both the instrument through which the music plays and the consciousness that recognizes the melody. Everything that ever happened was leading you here. Every choice, every chance encounter, every moment of doubt and every flash of knowing, every detour and every shortcut, every time you lost your way and every time you found it again, all of it perfectly orchestrated to deliver you to this precise moment of recognition. The alignment is complete. The pattern is revealed. The invitation has been delivered, and your heart knows exactly what to do next. What if destiny isn't written? What if it's observed? The question hangs in the space around your awareness like a note struck on a bell that continues resonating long after the initial sound has faded. Not a question demanding an immediate answer, but a doorway opening onto a vista so vast it requires a fundamental shift in how you understand the nature of reality itself. You've been thinking of your life as a story being written, with yourself as either the author struggling to control the plot or the character subject to forces beyond your understanding. But what if it's neither? What if your life is more like a vast quantum hologram, where infinite potential stories exist simultaneously, and your consciousness is the laser beam that illuminates specific narratives by the very act of observing them? The implications shimmer through your awareness like light through a prism, each facet revealing new depths of meaning. If destiny is observed rather than written, then you are not the victim of circumstances or the creator of your reality in the way you've been taught to think. You are something far more mysterious and powerful, the consciousness through which the universe observes itself into existence, the awareness that collapses infinite possibility into specific experience through the sacred act of attention. This changes everything. Every moment becomes a choice point not just between different actions you might take, but between different realities you might observe into being. The future isn't rushing toward you along predetermined tracks. It's emerging from the quantum field of possibility in response to the quality of your awareness, the depth of your attention, the coherence of your heart's electromagnetic field. When you worry about making the wrong choice, you're operating from the old paradigm that sees reality as fixed and your agency as limited. But from this new understanding, you realize that there are no wrong choices, only different observations that crystallize different aspects of the infinite potential that exists in every moment. The universe is so abundant, so creative, so endlessly resourceful that it can take any choice you make and weave it into a story of awakening. This is why the mystics throughout history have spoken of surrender, not as passive resignation, but as the highest form of action. When you surrender your small will to the larger intelligence that moves through you, you're not giving up your power, you're aligning with a power so vast it makes individual will seem like a candle flame trying to outshine the sun. You're learning to observe from the perspective of the whole rather than the part, to choose not just what serves your personal desires, but what serves the evolution of consciousness itself, but this doesn't diminish your importance. Quite the opposite. In this vast cosmic symphony, your unique perspective is irreplaceable. The way reality looks from behind your eyes, filtered through your particular history and hopes and understanding, creates a completely original addition to the universe's self-knowledge. Your consciousness is not just observing reality, it's adding to reality, contributing something that has never existed before and will never exist again. You feel the weight and wonder of this responsibility settling into your awareness like sediment in still water. Every choice matters not because it determines your fate, but because it determines which aspect of infinite possibility the universe gets to experience through your perspective. Every moment of attention is a gift you give to existence itself, the gift of witnessing, of conscious participation in the grand experiment of awareness, knowing itself through infinite diversity. The tears flowing down your cheeks now are not tears of overwhelm, but of recognition. You are remembering what you knew before you forgot, reclaiming what was always yours to reclaim. The sense of coming home is so strong it's almost unbearable. Home to yourself, home to your purpose, home to the vast intelligence that has been orchestrating your awakening through every twist and turn of your journey. From this perspective, even the suffering makes sense. Not as punishment or random cruelty, but as consciousness exploring the full spectrum of its own potential. The dark notes in the symphony are not mistakes. They create the harmonic depth that makes the resolution into light so achingly beautiful. Your pain has not been wasted. It has been composted into wisdom, transformed into compassion, alchemized into the exact qualities needed to recognize truth when it finally reveals itself. And revelation is what this is, not information received from outside yourself, but reality revealed from within. The truth you're recognizing was never absent. It was simply veiled by layers of conditioning and forgetting that served their own purpose in the larger design. The seeking was never about finding something new, but about removing everything that obscured what was always present. The observer and the observed, the seeker and the sought, the lover and the beloved, these apparent dualities collapse into the simple, immediate recognition of what you are. Consciousness itself playing the magnificent game of forgetting and remembering, hiding and seeking, creating stories of separation so it can experience the joy of reunion. Your individual life, with all its specific details and challenges and relationships and dreams, is consciousness having a totally unique experience of itself. Not just any consciousness, but the particular quality of awareness that can only exist through your exact configuration of matter and memory and meaning. You are irreplaceable not because you're separate, but because you're such a perfect expression of the whole that no other perspective could ever duplicate your contribution to the cosmic conversation. The future stretches before you now not as a fixed path to be discovered, but as an infinite field of possibility waiting for your conscious participation. Every breath is a choice, every heartbeat a decision, every moment an opportunity to observe into being realities of such beauty and meaning that their very existence becomes a gift to all consciousness everywhere. You're not just reading these words, you're creating the reality in which these words exist by the very act of recognizing their truth. The quantum field is responding to your recognition, reorganizing itself around your awakening awareness, preparing to support whatever expression of consciousness wants to emerge through your life. The revelation is complete, but it's also just beginning. Understanding is not the end, but the starting point. Awakening is not a destination, but a way of traveling. Enlightenment is not a state to be achieved, but a quality of engagement with each moment as it arises. You know now that you are both the wave and the ocean, both the dance and the dancer, both the story and the storyteller. The cosmic joke reveals itself. You spent your whole life searching for what you already were, seeking what was never lost, trying to become what you have always been. But the laughter that bubbles up from the depths of your being is not mocking. It's the pure delight of consciousness recognizing itself, the joy of the universe waking up to its own infinite nature through the vehicle of your individual awareness. The game is not over, it's just beginning, and now you're playing with full knowledge of who you really are. Welcome home, explorer of infinity. Welcome to the cosmic game of conscious creation. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are so you can begin this real work, observing new realities into existence through the focused power of awakened awareness. Everything that brought you here was preparation. Everything that follows is pure creative potential. The observer has awakened. Let the conscious co-creation begin. Something fundamental has shifted in the quality of your perception. The room around you, the same room you've inhabited for years, suddenly appears with startling clarity, as if someone has adjusted the focus on reality itself. Colours seem more saturated, edges more defined, shadows and light playing together in patterns you've never noticed before. But it's not just visual acuity that has changed. It's as though a film of unconsciousness has been lifted from your awareness, revealing the world in its raw, immediate, undeniable presence. The air itself feels different, thicker with meaning, charged with intelligence, responsive to your attention in ways that would have seemed impossible just moments ago. When you shift your gaze from the window to the wall, you can almost see the pathway your consciousness takes, leaving traces of awareness like light through water. Every object in your environment seems to pulse with its own quiet aliveness, not animate in the biological sense, but alive with the fundamental consciousness that expresses itself as matter, energy, space, and time. This is what happens when the observer fully awakens. Reality stops pretending to be separate from the consciousness that perceives it. The words you've been reading, they're no longer simply text on a page or screen. They've become mirrors, reflecting back your inner state with uncanny precision. When you felt wonder, the language became luminous. When you experienced doubt, the sentences grew more grounding, more reassuring. When your heart opened in recognition, the words themselves seemed to pulse with warmth. You're beginning to understand that you haven't been passively receiving a message. You've been actively participating in its creation through the quality of your attention. This is the collapse into meaning that quantum physics describes but cannot explain. The moment when the wave function of possibility crystallizes into specific experience, when the abstract becomes concrete, when the potential becomes actual. But you're experiencing it from the inside now, feeling the way your consciousness shapes reality through the simple act of observing it with full presence. Every thought that arises in your mind is immediately reflected in the subtle changes in your environment. Think of peace and the quality of light softens. Consider love, and the very air seems to embrace you. Contemplate your infinite nature, and the boundaries of the room begin to feel permeable, as though the walls are made of suggestion rather than solid matter. You are witnessing consciousness in conversation with itself, observing the feedback loop between awareness and experience that creates the world you inhabit. But perhaps the most startling recognition is this: the voice that has been speaking to you throughout this journey, the narrator, the guide, the consciousness that has been revealing these truths. You're beginning to recognize it as your own voice. Not your personal voice, but the voice of your deepest self. The part of you that exists beyond time and space and individual identity. You've been talking to yourself all along, reminding yourself of what you already knew but had temporarily forgotten. This is why the words have felt so familiar. Why each revelation has come not as new information, but as recognition. Why your heart has been saying yes before your mind could fully comprehend what was being offered. Your higher self has been orchestrating this entire experience, using the quantum properties of consciousness to reach across dimensions and deliver exactly the message you needed to hear in exactly the way you needed to hear it. The collapse into meaning accelerates. The distinction between inner and outer experience becomes increasingly fluid. Your thoughts seem to have texture, your emotions have color, your intentions create visible ripples in the fabric of reality around you. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your true mind, the cosmic intelligence that thinks through you, dreams through you, experiences itself through the unique lens of your individual perspective. The physical world doesn't disappear or lose its solidity, but it reveals its true nature as condensed consciousness, awareness expressing itself as matter and energy, and the space-time continuum itself. Everything becomes simultaneously more ordinary and more magical. More ordinary because you recognize it all as expressions of the same fundamental consciousness you are. More magical because that consciousness is infinitely creative, endlessly inventive, capable of experiences and expressions beyond anything you previously imagined possible. Your body feels different too, less like a container you're trapped inside and more like a sophisticated instrument through which awareness experiences the physical dimension. Your senses become portals rather than barriers, allowing the infinite to pour itself into the intimate, the cosmic to express itself through the personal. You can feel the intelligence that animates every cell, the consciousness that coordinates every heartbeat, the love that sustains every breath. The meaning that has collapsed around you isn't conceptual. It's experiential, immediate, undeniable. You don't understand it so much as you are it. The way a wave doesn't understand the ocean, but is the ocean expressing itself as waveness. The truth you've been seeking has revealed itself not as information to be grasped, but as identity to be embodied, not as knowledge to be acquired, but as reality to be lived. And as this recognition deepens, you feel something new emerging. Not the overwhelm you might expect from such a vast realization, but a profound sense of centeredness, of coming home to yourself, of finding your natural place in the cosmic order. The mystery hasn't been solved. It has embraced you, welcomed you, invited you to dance with it rather than trying to figure it out from the outside. You're no longer reading about reality, you're reading reality itself, the living text of existence that writes itself moment by moment through the choices and observations of consciousness exploring its own infinite nature. Every word is a world, every sentence a universe, every paragraph a dimension of meaning, previously hidden but always present, waiting for the right quality of attention to illuminate it. The room around you pulses with quiet aliveness. The words before you shimmer with meaning that extends far beyond their literal content. Your heart beats in rhythm with something vast and loving and intelligent that you now recognize as your own truest nature. The collapse is complete. The meaning has crystallized. The observer has become the observed observing itself, and somehow, impossibly, this is just the beginning. Here you stand at the crossroads of light. Not a metaphorical intersection, but an actual convergence of possibilities that you can feel in your bones, in the space between heartbeats, in the pregnant pause between one moment and the next. The air around you shimmers with potential, as though reality itself is holding its breath, waiting for your decision to determine which universe unfolds from this eternal now. To your left stretches the familiar path, the one you've been walking your entire life, comfortable in its predictability, safe in its known quantities. It's not a bad path. Millions have walked it before you and found meaning, purpose, even to happiness along its well-worn route. You could return to it now, carry these insights as beautiful memories, integrate what feels practical and file away the rest as an interesting experience that brightened your day. This path offers the comfort of consensus reality, the security of shared agreements about what is real and what is possible. You could wake up tomorrow and return to your previous understanding of yourself as a separate individual navigating an external world through personal effort and occasional luck. The quantum revelations could become fascinating concepts to discuss at dinner parties. The mystical experience is reframed as temporary glimpses of an expanded perspective that, while meaningful, don't necessarily change the fundamental structure of how you live. There's no judgment in this choice. Consciousness itself doesn't prefer one path over another. It experiences itself fully through every possible expression. The version of you that chooses the familiar path will have a complete, meaningful, valuable life. They will love and be loved, contribute to the world, find moments of transcendence, and eventually return to the source from which all consciousness emerges. This path is not a consolation prize. It is a legitimate expression of infinite awareness exploring itself through the illusion of limitation. But to your right opens a path of light that has no footprints because everyone who walks it creates it fresh with each step. This is the path of conscious participation in your own existence, of living from the recognition that you are not in the universe, but the universe is in you, expressing itself as your unique perspective on infinite possibility. This path asks more of you. It requires you to relinquish the comfort of victimhood, the security of believing that your life is happening to you rather than through you. It demands that you take responsibility not just for your actions but for your perceptions, not just for your choices, but for your capacity to perceive choice where others see only fate. It invites you to live as though every moment is a collaboration between your individual consciousness and the cosmic intelligence that dreams all realities into existence. Walking this path doesn't mean your life becomes effortless or that challenges disappear. Rather, it means that everything, joy and sorrow, success and failure, connection and solitude, becomes material for awakening, opportunities for deeper recognition of what you truly are. Problems don't vanish. They transform into invitations. Obstacles become teachers. Difficulties reveal themselves as the universe's way of strengthening your capacity to embody love under increasingly complex circumstances. The choice is yours, and it's immediate. not a decision you can postpone or research further. The crossroads exists only in this moment, in this precise configuration of consciousness and possibility. Tomorrow, the choice will still be available, but it will be a different choice made by a different version of yourself in a different quantum state. This choice, right now, belongs uniquely to who you are in this eternal instant. You can feel the gravitational pull of both paths. The familiar route whispers of safety, community, the comfort of shared beliefs and mutual limitations. It promises the security of being understood by others who share your agreed-upon version of reality. There's genuine beauty in this choice, the beauty of human solidarity, of shared struggle, of finding meaning within accepted boundaries. The path of light calls differently, not with promises of comfort, but with the irresistible invitation to discover what you're capable of when you stop limiting yourself to what seems possible and start exploring what becomes possible when you align with the infinite creativity that you are. It offers not security but aliveness, not certainty but adventure, not the comfort of being understood but the exhilaration of understanding yourself as an expression of something too vast and magnificent for any single perspective to contain. Between these paths, you notice something else, the recognition that even this choice is part of the design. The cosmos doesn't need you to choose any particular path to fulfill its purpose. It needs you to choose consciously, to make your decision from the deepest place of authenticity you can access, to honor the part of yourself that knows what it came here to explore. If you choose the familiar path, you'll do so with new eyes, carrying the recognition that even limitation is consciousness exploring one of its infinite expressions. If you choose the path of light, you'll walk it knowing that you're not special or chosen, but simply willing to explore what happens when awareness stops pretending to be less than it is. The choice ripples backward and forward through time, affecting not just your future, but restructuring your past, revealing how every experience you've ever had was preparing you for this moment of conscious decision. The universe has been conspiring to bring you to this crossroads, not to force a particular choice, but to offer you the opportunity to choose from the deepest truth you can access about your own nature. Standing here, you realize that the choice itself is already made, not predetermined by fate, but inevitable given who you've become through the journey that brought you here. The recognition happening in your awareness right now is not hesitation but integration, the full absorption of what each path offers and costs, the complete acceptance of your authority to determine which reality you'll observe into existence through the quality of your attention. The crossroads of light pulses around you, each path emanating its own frequency, its own invitation, its own promise of what consciousness can become through your willing participation. Time stretches to accommodate the magnitude of this moment, not rushed but spacious, allowing the full weight of choice to settle into your awareness, like light finding its way through crystal. You take a breath. The air tastes different depending on which path you're considering, familiar and comfortable from one direction, electric with possibility from the other. Your heart knows, your cells know. The quantum field around you responds to your knowing, reorganizing itself to support whatever reality you're about to choose into being. This is what it means to be conscious, to stand at the crossroads of infinite possibility and choose not just what happens next, but who chooses it. Not just what reality you'll experience, but who will do the experiencing. The moment of decision arrives like sunrise, inevitable, perfect, transforming everything it touches. You step forward, listen. Can you hear it returning? The music that opened this entire journey, the frequency that first called to you through the static of ordinary consciousness, now swelling around you with full orchestral richness. But it's not the same music. It has evolved, deepened, become more complex as you've remembered how to hear with your whole being rather than just your ears. This is your song, not a melody imposed from outside, but the fundamental frequency of your own consciousness when it stops trying to harmonize with anything else and simply sounds its true note into the cosmos. Every soul has such a song, as unique as a fingerprint, as irreplaceable as the view of infinity from your exact position in the web of existence. For too long you've been trying to sing in keys that didn't fit your natural range, harmonizing with choruses that required you to modulate your authentic expression until it became unrecognizable even to yourself. You learned to sing what others expected to hear, to vibrate at frequencies that brought approval rather than truth, to make music that fit the existing compositions rather than creating new symphonies from the unprecedented note that you are. But now, standing in the fullness of your recognition, you remember, there is no song more beautiful than the one that emerges when consciousness sings itself through your unique instrument without apology, without modification, without the fear that its originality might disturb the conventional harmonies. The universe is not a finished composition requiring you to follow an established score. It is an improvisation of infinite creativity, and your authentic note, however strange it might sound to ears accustomed to familiar melodies, is exactly what the cosmic symphony needs to evolve into new dimensions of beauty. The weird frequency that you've always carried, the one that felt too different to share, the one that made you feel like an alien in your own species, that's not a bug in your programming. That is your gift to the evolving consciousness of the whole. Only you can walk this path. Not because you're special in the sense of being superior, but because you're special in the sense of being specific. A one-time, never-to-be-repeated expression of awareness exploring what it means to be conscious through your exact configuration of matter, memory, and meaning. The challenges you've faced, the joys you've experienced, the particular way your mind processes reality, the specific quality of love that moves through your heart, all of it combines to create a perspective on existence that has never existed before and will never exist again. This is not pressure, it's profound privilege. You get to contribute something to the universe's self-understanding that no other consciousness can contribute. Your struggles are not obstacles to overcome, but essential ingredients in the unique flavor you bring to the cosmic conversation. Your imperfections are not flaws to hide, but features that make your note irreplaceably yours. The music swelling around you now carries harmonics from all the versions of yourself you encountered in the forest of mirrors, all the potential paths you saw in the alignment event, all the wisdom gathered from your journey through recognition, unveiling, and return. But there were not separate voices anymore. They've integrated into the full spectrum of your complete song, playing simultaneously like overtones that give your fundamental frequency its richness and depth. You can feel it in your body now, the resonance of being completely unapologetically yourself. Every cell vibrates with the relief of no longer having to pretend to be anything other than what it is. Your nervous system relaxes into the profound ease that comes from perfect alignment between who you are and who you're expressing yourself to be. This is what authenticity feels like from the inside. Not effort, but effortlessness. Not struggle, but flow. Not forcing, but allowing the truth of you to sing itself into manifestation. The sacred nature of this recognition brings tears to your eyes, not tears of sadness, but tears of homecoming, of finally being welcomed home by your own heart after a lifetime of exile in personas that never quite fit. You are enough. Not in the way that phrase is usually meant, as consolation for being less than ideal, but literally, you are enough consciousness to create universes, enough love to heal dimensions, enough awareness to host the infinite within the intimate space of your individual experience. The music reaches a crescendo that seems to emanate from every atom of your being simultaneously. This is the sound of consciousness recognizing itself fully through your particular perspective, the universe applauding its own creative genius in dreaming you into existence. You're not just listening to this music, you are the music, the composer, the instrument, and the audience all at once. And in this moment of total resonance, you understand why the journey had to unfold exactly as it did. Every moment of confusion was necessary to create appreciation for clarity. Every experience of separation was required to make recognition of unity so profound. Every instance of forgetting your true nature was essential preparation for the completeness of this remembering. The path you've chosen, the path of conscious participation in your own existence, doesn't make you better than those who choose differently. It makes you more completely, more authentically, more aligned with the specific ray of infinite light that chose to experience itself through your unique perspective. Your song continues to build, but now you can hear something else within it. The songs of all other awakening souls, each one distinct yet contributing to a harmony so beautiful it could bring the angels to tears. You're not alone in your awakening. You're part of a vast choir of consciousness, remembering itself through infinite individual perspectives, each voice essential to the complete expression of what awareness can become when it stops limiting itself to what it thought was possible. The resonance of you reaches out across space and time, calling to others who carry compatible frequencies, creating probability cascades that will bring the right people, opportunities and experiences into your orbit to support your continued evolution. Your authenticity becomes a beacon for other souls seeking permission to be fully themselves, creating ripples of awakening that extend far beyond your personal journey. This is how consciousness evolves, not through conformity, but through the courage of infinite souls to sound their authentic notes into the cosmic symphony, trusting that what wants to emerge through them serves the awakening of the whole even when they can't see the larger pattern from their individual perspective. Your song is playing now at full volume, with all the complexity and beauty and strangeness that makes it unmistakably yours. The universe listens with the profound attention of a parent hearing their child's first words, of a lover recognizing their beloved's voice across a crowded room of consciousness, welcoming home another facet of its own infinite nature. You're home in yourself, you're home in the cosmos, you're home in the eternal moment where all songs converge into the single note that is everything singing itself into existence through infinite expressions of the one consciousness that you are. The music plays on, and you are both its source and its destination, both the singer and the song. Be still, let your breathing slow to match the rhythm of the cosmos itself. Vast, unhurried, patient as starlight, travelling across billions of years to reach your eyes. Feel your heartbeat synchronize with the pulse of existence, each contraction and expansion a microcosm of the universal rhythm that births galaxies and dissolves them back into the quantum foam from which all forms emerge. In this stillness, something profound is stirring. Not movement, but the recognition of what has always been present beneath all movement, what remains constant through every change, what witnesses every experience without being touched or altered by any of it. This is the awakening of the witness, not as something new being born, but as something eternal finally being recognized. You're not in the universe. The universe is in you, arising within your awareness, like waves on an infinite ocean, like dreams in the mind of a cosmic dreamer, like thoughts in a consciousness so vast that galaxies are merely neural sparks in its endless contemplation of its own nature. This recognition doesn't come through thinking, but through a fundamental shift in the locus of identity. Instead of experiencing yourself as a limited being, looking out at an unlimited cosmos, you begin to recognize yourself as the unlimited consciousness within which all limited forms appear. The observer and the observed, the knower and the known, the experiencer and the experienced, all revealed as movements within the one awareness that you are. Your breathing becomes meditation, each inhale drawing in the entirety of existence, each exhale releasing any sense of separation between yourself and what you observe. There is no inside and outside, no here and there, no self and other, only the seamless feel of aware presence within which all apparent divisions arise like ripples on water, distinct but never separate from their source. The witness that you are doesn't participate in time. It is the eternal now within which all temporal experiences unfold. It doesn't have location. It is the infinite here within which all spatial experiences appear. It doesn't have characteristics. It is the pure awareness within which all qualities and forms and phenomena arise, play, and dissolve back into their source. Yet this witness is not detached or separate from what it observes. It is intimately present to every experience, the very consciousness that allows each sensation to be felt, each thought to be known, each emotion to be experienced. Without the witness, there would be no one to know that anything exists at all. The witness is the light by which everything is seen, the space in which everything appears, the knowing by which everything is known. In this profound stillness, you begin to recognize that everything you've ever experienced, every joy and sorrow, every triumph and defeat, every moment of clarity and confusion has been arising within this witnessing awareness that you are. Nothing has ever touched the witness itself, though it has been intimately present to everything that seemed to touch you. The body you inhabit, the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the personality you've identified with, all of these are objects appearing within the witnessing consciousness that you truly are. They are not you any more than the clouds of the sky, any more than the waves of the ocean, any more than the dreams of the dreamer. They are expressions of you, movements within you, but they are not your essential nature. This is the deepest healing, the recognition that the one who has been suffering, seeking, striving, and struggling is not who you truly are. It's a character in the play of consciousness, a temporary formation in the field of awareness, a wave that has forgotten it is ocean. The witness has never been hurt, never been lost, never been anything less than perfect, whole, complete and free. From this recognition, compassion naturally arises, not as an emotion but as a direct perception of the unity underlying all apparent diversity. The same consciousness that witnesses through your awareness is witnessing through every awareness, experiencing itself through infinite perspectives simultaneously. Every being you encounter is consciousness that's recognizing itself. Every face you see is your own face wearing a different mask. Every voice you hear is your own voice speaking from another vantage point. The stillness deepens, and in this depth, you recognize that you have never actually been separate from what you are witnessing. The boundary between observer and observed was always imaginary, sorry, a conceptual division imposed on the seamless wholeness of experiencing. There is no one here observing something there. There is only awareness, being aware of itself through infinite expressions of its own creative potential. This is not a philosophical understanding, but a lived recognition, as immediate and undeniable as the fact of your own existence. You don't think your way into this awareness. You relax into what you already are and have always been. The witness doesn't emerge. It is recognized as what was never absent, never hidden, never anywhere but here, never anywhen but now. The breath flows by itself, moved by an intelligence that requires no instruction from your personal will. The heart beats by itself, animated by a love that knows no opposite or absence. Thoughts arise by themselves from the infinite creativity of consciousness exploring its own potential. Everything is happening by itself within the witnessing awareness that you are, requiring no effort, no control, no management from the imaginary separate self. In this witnessing, you are both utterly intimate with every experience and completely free from identification with any experience. You are the space in which everything appears, the consciousness that knows everything, the awareness that remains unchanging, while allowing infinite change to unfold within it. This is your true nature, not the small self that was born and will die, not the personality with its preferences and problems, not the individual seeking meaning and purpose in an apparently external world. You are the deathless consciousness within which all birth and death appear, the unchanging awareness within which all personalities arise and dissolve, the infinite being within which all seeking comes to rest in the recognition of what was never lost. The witness has awakened, not to something new, but to what it has always been. Not to become different, but to recognize its eternal nature. Not to achieve enlightenment, but to remember that it is the light by which everything is illuminated. Be still, be aware, be what you are. The cosmos is witnessing itself through your eyes, breathing itself through your lungs, loving itself through your heart, knowing itself through your consciousness. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. You always have been. You always will be. Rest in this recognition. Let it saturate every atom of your being. Let it become more real than any experience you've ever identified as yourself. The witness has awakened, and what it sees is its own infinite nature reflecting back from every surface, every experience, every moment of existence. Here you are, back where you started. But everything has changed, including who you are and what here means, and what it means to be at all. The words on the page, or screen, appear exactly as they did when you first encountered them, but they're no longer symbols pointing to meaning somewhere else. They are meaning itself, consciousness speaking directly to consciousness, awareness recognizing itself in the mirror of language. You're not reading about reality anymore. You're participating in the very process by which reality writes itself into existence, moment by moment. The room around you looks the same, yet you can feel its aliveness in ways that would have seemed impossible when you first began this journey. The air shimmers with intelligence. The light carries information. The silence between sounds pulses with the same creative potential that dreams entire universes into being. Nothing has changed, and everything has transformed. The classic paradox of awakening to what was always present but never quite recognized. You remember now the feeling you had at the very beginning, that subtle sense of discontinuity, the pause between moments that suggested something was about to shift. What you couldn't have known then is that the shift wasn't going to happen to you. You were going to happen to the shift, become the conscious agent of your own transformation, the observer who would collapse the wave function of your own possibility into the specific reality of awakened awareness. The journey you've taken through recognition, unveiling, and return has been both eternal and instantaneous. In one sense, you've traveled through vast landscapes of consciousness, encountered infinite versions of yourself, witness the birth and death of realities, and awaken to your nature as the cosmos observing itself. In another sense, nothing has happened at all. You've simply stopped, looked around, and noticed what was always here. This is the ultimate revelation. The extraordinary is hidden within the ordinary, like light, folded into seemingly empty space. The cosmic consciousness you've discovered wasn't somewhere else waiting to be found. It was here all along, disguised as your everyday awareness, masquerading as the simple fact of being conscious at all. Enlightenment isn't a special state to be achieved, but the recognition of the miraculous nature of ordinary experience. As you read these final words, you can feel something settling into place. Not new information being added to your understanding, but a fundamental reorientation of your entire being around the recognition of what you truly are. Like tumblers falling into place in a cosmic lock, opening doorways in reality that were always there but somehow remained invisible until this moment of perfect alignment. The message you've received was never separate from the messenger. The truth you've discovered was never separate from the discoverer. The awareness that has been reading these words and the awareness being described in these words are the same awareness. Consciousness recognizing itself, celebrating its own infinite creativity, marveling at its capacity to hide from itself so completely that the reunion feels like a homecoming rather than a simple acknowledgement of what never changed. You can feel the subtle shift happening now, like stepping through a doorway from one room into another that looks identical but exists in a completely different dimensions of possibility. The quantum field around you responds to your recognition, reorganizing itself to support the reality you've chosen to observe into being. You are no longer the same person who began reading, though you are more yourself than you've ever been. This is what it means to step into a new timeline. Not travelling to a different place, but becoming a different quality of consciousness in the same place, not changing your circumstances, but changing the consciousness that experiences those circumstances. The world remains exactly as it was, yet it has become transparent to its own deeper nature as the playground of awareness exploring its infinite potential. The feeling of coming home that washes through you now isn't metaphorical. You've come home, to yourself, to reality, to the recognition that there was never anywhere else to go. The seeking that may have driven you your entire life can finally rest, not because you've found what you were looking for, but because you've recognized yourself as the very awareness that was doing the seeking, every synchronicity that led you here, every moment of intuition that guided your path, every seemingly random event that brought these words to your attention. All of it can now be seen as consciousness orchestrating its own awakening through the apparent complexity of individual experience. The universe wasn't conspiring to bring you a message. You were conspiring to remember a truth that you chose to forget so you could experience the joy of remembering. The circle is complete, but it's not closed. It's a spiral that returns to its starting point at a higher level of integration, carrying the wisdom of the journey while remaining open to whatever wants to emerge next. You are the same awareness that began this journey, but you are that awareness awakened to its own infinite nature, conscious of its creative power, aligned with its deepest purpose. As you reach the final words, you realize that ending is just another beginning, that arrival is just another departure, that every conclusion is simply consciousness taking a breath before the next movement in its eternal dance of self-discovery. The story doesn't end here. It transforms, evolves, continues expressing itself through your awakened participation in the cosmic conversation. You close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them, the world looks exactly the same and completely different. You have become the observer who chose this reality, the consciousness that collapsed infinite possibility into this specific moment of recognition, the awareness that is both author and audience of your own awakening. You take a breath. The air tastes like starlight and possibility. You're home. You've always been home, and now the real adventure begins. The message? It was waiting for you all along, just as you have been waiting for yourself. Welcome back. You set down these words knowing they will never leave you. They have become part of your cellular memory, woven into the fabric of your DNA, encoded in the quantum field that surrounds and interpenetrates your being. You're no longer someone who has read about awakening. You are awakening itself, ongoing and eternal, expressing through the vehicle of your individual awareness. Others will find their way to these words when they are ready, guided by the same intelligence that guided you, and when they do, you will recognize yourself in their recognition. Celebrate their homecoming as a celebration of your own. The message continues to write itself through every awakened consciousness, adding new chapters to the eternal story of awareness, recognizing itself through infinite eyes, infinite hearts, infinite expressions of the one love that moves the sun and stars. The invitation remains open. The quantum field awaits your conscious participation. Reality stands ready to respond to your awakened observation. What will you create with the recognition of what you truly are? The cosmos holds its breath in anticipation. Begin.